Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to Game Dev Part 2. We're a second stream of the day. First stream went really well. We made some notes, played the build, created some more work items, and tried to schedule out a rough idea of what we're going to be trying to do this week. Might change, but I like having an idea of where we're at. And then we did a little bit of polish and bugs and kind of just talked a little bit about where we're at. This afternoon, we're going to be working on some more tutorial stuff. Technically, yesterday we had kind of started on getting the UI hiding so it can be revealed during tutorial cutscenes. We're going to continue that now, so we can kind of jump into that and take a look at where we're at. We did a little bit of this morning, but just for context of this VOD for YouTube. Essentially, we've got it so that there's a initial tutorial that is revealing the clock, and then we have another tutorial that is revealing the actual health stats. We may tweak these as we kind of figure out a better flow, but for the time being, I'm kind of liking the way this is feeling. Let's switch up the background music. I love the strategist just to start the stream. It just feels right to me. It's very upbeat. Let's switch over to, what's this one? Oh, Playful Banter is pretty good. So, got the character Hero here speaking. We're having this dialogue. The goddess walks forward and hands Hero this like clock object. And then we get sent down. Again, I think I'd like to replace this falling out with like a cast of a spell of some kind. But overall transition's fine for the time being. I'm in a forest now. What is this thing she gave me? It's like, what is this? My stats written on here, just like a video game. Again, the snake is eating its own tail here. We know what we're building. We're building an isekai, which is based off of video games, and this is a video game based off of. Listen, it's fine. So that's where we are for the tutorials. But the next problem is I kind of want to tutorialize a couple of specific things, and the current layout we have for the maps aren't exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to do some level design today, and we're going to try and build out the map a little bit differently. We're probably going to still keep this zone as well as the next couple of zones. They kind of fall into, if we bring back here and look at the demo map layout, this first goddess statue room is where we're starting, and we can go down into room 2, and then we can go down either into the pink route, or we can stay on this kind of main route here into room 3. And we have room 3, and then we have room A and B, and everything outlined in red we've not created yet. And then just before starting the stream, I was just rearranging the layout of this. Just want to try maybe adding one more tutorial room in here. Just because I want to have the layout be a little bit different for some future reasons, I realized. So we'll go here, and then we'll go here. Okay. So first room is going to be the goddess statue, and then I want a really short area that's going to be relatively small to kind of talk about like completing a room a little bit. Which is going to be important for narrative reasons when we go back to the Goddess Realm for the first time. And then I want to get into some combat. I think this is the way I'd like to lay it out. It's still debatable. I'm still not 100% sure, but we can start here. So I think the main thing is we need to make a new room for like tutorial 1 where we spawn in, and it needs to be really small. Currently we're walking through not a long room, like it only took us like 20 turns to walk down here, but I think it could be a lot simpler. We're not going to have any combat in this room. We're not going to be tutorializing completing a room for reasons I'll explain later. So I think it's really just a really tiny space that's just leading us right out and into the next space, which will tutorialize later things. So let's build a new room. We're going to start by going into Dungeons, Forest, and let's go to room 1, and we'll start with that as a base. Let's go to scene view. So we have all of our stuff here. It's been, I feel like since we started the kind of stream vacation, we haven't really done any of the level design stuff. Also, thank you TezKid for the follow on Twitch. Appreciate it. Let's start by save asing this as a new room. And let's do infinite retries, content, scenes, dungeons, forest. I think we'll use the same folder. We won't make a subfolder for the tutorials, but I think we will do something along the lines of maybe just naming it tutorial 0001. Does that feel right? Naming convention, the hardest part of programming, or game development in general. Design work, programming, art, doesn't matter. So up until now, we've been doing 3 digits at the end. We could also maybe do something like T01. I don't hate that. We probably won't have more than 100 tutorial rooms. I mean, I don't even know if we'll actually have like 100 forest rooms, but I felt like the right level of digits just in case. I think we'll go with T01. You know what? The debate I'm having is whether or not this should be its own dungeon entirely, but I think it's still part of the forest, so we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave the naming convention because I still want it to feel like we're in this area, even if this is like only gonna be these very small tutorial-y rooms. So we now have tutorial T01. Now it's been a little bit since we've done this. If we do raycast environment, it's gonna break. Does not break. Why? There's some steps we have to do though, right? We have to come in here and we have to make sure that we set this up with an addressable ID correctly. So this needs to be T01. And then do we need to do the same thing for the images that created? So inside of here, we should have a T01 that got generated. Yep. There's a work in progress and a raw. That's fine. And then we can regenerate the forest in order to make a final version, which is a weird process, but it just makes it so that when we're in 3D, it actually gets rendered out correctly in 2D. Okay. And then if we were to play this room, Global Scene Checker should still try and find a revive entrance in here. This should be essentially a carbon copy of 001. And that is playable and we can walk. And in fact, we should be able to walk out. Now we can tell this is a different room because the floor is not set up correctly. It's gone to this blank version, so this is a different space. And it's still set to go to 002. So we will fix that later. Now we get to play with building stuff. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of designing all the prop layout because getting all the props laid out, we're zooming way too fast. Let's zoom speed down. Okay. So getting all these props laid out, I tend to be very fussy about trying to get everything in the right spots and feeling very visually good, visually interesting and not cluttery. But I think Drixie and I need to go through and do like a prop pass on the forest in the next little bit here. Some of them just aren't necessarily fitting well on the ground. And so rather than spend a bunch of time crafting with these assets that I think I'm going to be kind of not replacing, but adjusting, I think we should just like ignore the prop stuff and just get the map layouts. Because for the tutorial, it doesn't need to be beautiful. We just need to get the layout. Plus, then when I do get time to work with Drixie on some of the art, we can also have the floor layouts done as well. So that all being said, how do we want to change this one? So we want this one to start as a north facing, or a north room that's going into a southern room. And we want it to be relatively short. I really like spawning in the center of the screen. So when we hit play here, there's like the lightning bolt that's very in the middle. So everything is kind of framed around the center of the room. It feels good to be like, that's your starting spot. But I think... So this comes back to something I was saying in the last stream, where technically speaking, there's no reason the exit has to be here. I could move all the exit stuff right up to the edge here so that like we leave this space immediately. But I think I want to keep trying to maintain inside of this constraint that like, for the most part, each room should be about this 20 by 20 size. Maybe later levels we can try and simplify. But I want to keep this constraint for now. So I'm going to turn off all the props. So where are these located? They're all under prop billboards. So we're going to turn all of those off for the time being. And then if we save, I think that should regenerate everything. Oh, we left the water on, so the water is actually going to get filled in here. But all the trees and everything are gone. Yeah, all of that is now missing. Okay, cool. So then, just trying to get the speed adjusted to something that feels a little better. What props do we have here? We have one large one, and then we have a bunch of little cubes that looks like that make up the outer edges. We need a good base cube to work with. This looks like a good one. Sometimes they get a little off pivot. Oh, also all of these sound effects, that's what this is terrain typing for sound data. We can pull all that out for now as well. Because that'll be somewhat dependent on where Drixie draws the like dirt paths in. Now, I think I actually want this tile to be more left. I think I'm going to just delete this cube because it doesn't have its pivot in the right spot. And then we're going to bring this one more to be left aligned. And we're going to make it so that the spot we're spawning in is only going to be a very small section in the like bottom left of the map. And then I want some edge pieces, I think. So we're going to try laying it out this way. Not going to make it too complicated. Maybe we even pull this in a bit. I think something like this feels okay to me. It reminds me a bit of the space we built for the skill tree stuff. For whatever reason. Probably creating a very similar shape. Okay, that seems fine-ish. Just layering edges. Okay, let's say that's the starting point. Let's turn the prop billboards back on, and let's disable everything that isn't the goddess statue. And then let's grab that and move it. Got to switch back to object mode. Let's move that there. Let's move the spawn tile here. And then we have a bunch of start reveal tokens. So we're gonna, I think, rather than try and move all of them, we're gonna do copy and pasting, which I find a little bit easier. So we're gonna start with the goddess statue, this one, and this one. And then I'm just curious, we'll also have to move the beam of light, which really should have some sort of like indicator on it, like even if it's just a little like lightning strike yellow. I guess it's a blue. But we already used blue for the start revealed. Okay, so we'll do that. And I'm just curious, what does this look like? So it's save, that'll auto export everything for us, and when we hit play, interesting. Oh, let's turn off the water. I just need it for like keeping myself within the bounds more than anything. Okay, so the way that that is set up, it looks like it does not do a full sight radius around us. Let's try this. That almost feels too big. Maybe we're supposed to go left. Let's actually create some really interesting spaces. This is interesting because it means that if we ever have like secret entrances going up this way, we have more room to play with in between. There's not really going to be a set map in this way, like a Metrovania or something. I'm not expecting to build like a full map layout that shows exactly where every room is in conjunction to every other room, but I like designing this way so that if I ever do decide to go down that route, I have some consistency to the environment. And I could show it in like a grid format not unlike this. Just really designing for the future, even if it's not for the now. So I kind of like maybe we go left here. The problem is my brain feels like we should go down or to the right, but there's nothing that requires that to be true. The whole point of all of this is to get feedback long term for this demo, so let's try it. If people don't like it, they don't like it. So let's grab all of these cubes, minus this one. Let's bring them all over. Let's bring this up. And then let's bring the spawn tile, this, and the goddess statue in a bit. Same with all of these reveal pieces. Let's bring all of those in. I'd also like to add a couple more reveals. Actually, maybe I just kill this block entirely. And then we could shrink this in a bit. What does that look like? Oh, the water's going to come in with it. I wonder, you know what's probably easy is we could probably turn off the mesh collider so that my raycast system doesn't detect the water, but for the sake of keeping us in the bounds, it's visibly there. That's probably a good middle ground. I want to take a look at the spawn that we're doing. We're doing a lightning entrance. Let's take a look at that prefab. What is the sight stuff doing here? It looks like it's only looking in front of us. And this one's looking around us. So based off our facing, and we are facing south when we come in. Interesting. So what if we change our facing direction to spawn and look... Or sorry, we're coming in east. We want to look south this way. And if we turn off all the reveals... I think I just want these 3 around the statue to come in first. Because I want the statue to kind of be... in situ. Yeah. It's a little tricky. Oh, did our facing not change? Oh, interesting. Is this hard-coded to face always to the one direction? That's the magic cast of the lightning beam, and then we pause to make sure that that lightning beam is done. Switch up to... I'm going to change the background to this one. So we work on this tutorial area. Stretch from Drixie. Alright, we will do a sit, because we've been standing for a while. Again, it's not about always standing, it's about switching up the position, never being in one position for too long. I'll be right back. And we have returned. Can I lower that anymore? No. Okay, we're in a good spot. Okay, so, heroes appearing here. I don't love the position still. Let's zoom in. We are bottom of the screen. If we were to move around a bit. Yeah, I don't hate it. I think this is a little too far south. I'm just a little confused on why we're facing... like, why the facing isn't being respected. If we take a look at these ones, do these somehow... No, I'm not sure. Let's take a look at the spawn. Spawn direction. Is this being sent to our... tile data, and then tile data uses this to be passed to a tile, and then the individual tile says that when we place a unit, place it with the spawn direction. So, okay. So if we set a spawn direction, this is completely independent of the type of transition in we do. So we've set this to south. We are doing revive entrance, and revive entrance is what we're using to spawn in. So let's take a look at this point here and debug and see what we're getting for the value. I'm also going to just try switching it back to east to make sure that like when we changed to the south, it was a different direction. Because maybe I'm just getting my facing wrong. It's a little tricky in ISO to always keep track of it all. Okay, it's coming in with east here, which is facing this way. Okay, and then if we change it to south... Oh, we are still getting our spawn direction as east. Interesting. Very interesting. So this isn't updating, even though I'm pretty positive that's the tile we're loading into. So then the question becomes... if we save here, we kind of need to figure out what tile this is. So this should be 14.5 and 0.5. So I would expect that if we look at the data for this level inside of this object, if we find one with the position 14, that's 15. That's 14.5. What did I say? Did I say 14.5? I did say 14.5. So I would expect this to be the one we're spawning in on. And we are spawning in south with an on-enter lightning. Okay, so this is the tile, and it currently has its spawn direction as south. Okay, so that should be correct then. So where is it getting this spawn tile? Let's validate that information. See if somehow that information is incorrect. So it's getting a position of 14 and 15, which is what we would expect to find. So we're going to go get the tile from the entity manager. It's doing a bunch of work. Yeah, it's just finding the position. Okay, get tile. Get tile at 14.5. Try and get value. Should have returned a tile value. Having a hard time seeing what information it has. Spawn tile here. So it should have a transition data. No. None of the weapon stuff should matter. Spawn direction south. Okay. Spawn direction south. Okay, so that is coming in with the correct value. Okay, so that should be set up right. Oh, and it is. Interesting. Super weird. Yeah, I'm not sure why that wasn't taking. So it must have just been was the raycast or the save wasn't working correctly. I'm slightly sad about that, but that's okay. It's working now. Let's stop debugging. Those are always the worst, where it's like you think you understand how your system works, but something is still wrong. Okay, so when we drop in, I think what we do is we start with these ones revealed as well. We could modify the spawn effect to like cause the triggers, cause the tiles to appear. I don't mind that, actually. I think that's okay. So it feels like some amount of tiles are starting spawned in as part of like the lightning strike. I want that one that just spawned in to also start on. So all the tiles that are not the direction I want you moving in will come in automatically. And we're going to let the sight system of the lightning bolt pop these ones in so that your eye is kind of drawn that way. You can walk up this way, but it doesn't do anything. But if this one gets revealed, then this one, then this one, and then these. And I think I do need some eventual thing to let you know that these are like exit tiles, like they should be like half shaded in darkness or something, or like some sort of UI indicator. Actually, I have a couple ideas on this. Okay, so let's say this is where we start. Let's go modify the tutorial. So if we go into the cutscenes, cutscene manager, this is expecting to play the tutorial on room 1. We're going to change that to tutorial 01. And I don't feel like changing the flag right now. We can leave that the same. Didn't play the effect. I'm going to try it from boot flow. So if we go here, we're going to need to change the boot tutorial stuff. This normally sends you down into room 01. This is now going to send you to tutorial 01. And I think we also need to change the default checkpoint. Trying to think about where that's set up. How do we define the default checkpoints? How do we define that? So we have a checkpoint screen, right? Oh, is this all handled by the flags, actually? Boot intro is set to set, but nothing about it causes it to trigger immediately. I'm just going to manually edit the files. I don't feel like reparsing everything for one change. This is where we determine the state of the tiles, or the checkpoints. So we need to now have a checkpoint for TO1 as our starting one. And we'll need to add one later for 01 back in. Actually, I don't think that's going to work. Yeah, so we have this list of checkpoints here. I should do it properly in this area. So we want to 03. We want it to be set. We want 01, and then this one becomes T01. This is of type set. I don't think we're using these values. Are we? Let's take a look at the TSVs. Checkpoint flag data. Oh, we do use that value. That also needs to be set up correctly. So this needs to be here, this needs to be here, this needs to be 3, and this needs to be TO1. Okay. And then we'll download that into that TSV file. Download TSV. Checkpoint flags. Save, replace. Okay. And that has that new information inside of it. And then if we come up here to tools and we parse the checkpoint flags, which I think we built directly into the flag system. Null reference. Okay, fun. Seems unrelated. Okay. If we go into here, this now has 4 pieces of data. Okay, cool. So I think that did work. So if we load from boot, we should have routed the data correctly to be able to have a start in the tutorial. We're going to speed up past this. And then when we exit this area, ooh, no reference. Ah, because we had not added that scene. We had not added that scene to our build settings. TO1, and we will do build settings, add open scene. So now it's in here. Okay. Now if we go back to boot, we should be able to load into it from the cutscene. Good. Speed up past this. Okay, we should load into the right scene. Yes. I think that's okay. Let's go back into that scene and let's add some spawn information. We're going to want to go left, so let's actually go steal that data. That should be set up the same way in room 3. This information for a south entrance. So we'll grab that, we'll go back to dungeons, and then we'll paste this information in here, and we should be able to line that up onto the exit tiles. Now, when this transitions, we're going to want to go not to O2, but to TO2, and it will be a north entrance. Awesome. And that should be good enough. I would like to add a couple of props in here, I think. So let's turn on a few of these trees. And I think I just want to place just a few of them. Something like that, I think, would be okay. Turn this one back on. Place that there. Place that there. There. And there. Again, I'm not going to fully prop set this up, but I just want a couple of these. And these will also start revealed. So we'll give them these indicators. Oh, missed it. I'm just curious why we're not seeing the cutscene play out when we load into the thing. I must have wrote some logic in order to make it so that we only load the cutscenes. We must only load the cutscenes if we're starting from boot. Just curious how I did that. It had to have been like a day or two ago if I did it, but I don't remember purposely doing it. So I feel like some other thing I did weirdly created a behavior I wanted. Which is if we're loading the scene directly, it doesn't play the cutscenes. So scene name should be that. That's correct. So then it's somehow the flag is not set correctly yet. Oh, the flags aren't set up yet. Huh. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Why are we not exiting? The scene shouldn't exist for us to transition into. Yeah, anyways, I feel like I remember there being an issue where if I loaded into the scene, it would play the cutscene and immediately send me out. But I'm not sure why that is operating differently. But regardless, it's effectively... It's nice right now because I don't want the cutscenes to play when I'm testing. I was just a little weirded out because I remember it being a problem before. But maybe it's just on re-entering the scenes that it happens. So this should have a transition tile associated with it. Oh, I know why. It's the same problem I've run into a couple of times. When I copy the entrance from a different scene and try and paste it in, sometimes it doesn't go under the room. And if it's not under the room object, it won't get parsed properly. Okay, so we have a very simple scene. We load in. There's literally nothing to do here except get a little bit of dialogue and then move right on out. Do we crack? Oh, breakpoints. Just didn't auto-populate Visual Studio. Okay, we'll stop debugging. Zoom in here a bit, and we can walk to the edge. And it breaks because there isn't a tutorial O2 yet. So let's make that. How do we want to do that? Probably just save as this scene. And we will go to infinite retries, content, scenes, dungeons, forest, and make a TO2. Save that. This is now a different scene. We can save in order to recast the environment. That should generate a bunch of stuff. Namely, the main thing is we want to give this an addressable ID. I should really set this up so it does it as part of the generation, but it's not a huge thing to do one time. And then we're going to want to go to a different scene. Let's go to, I think 3 works again. We're going to grab its north entrance, copy that. Then we're going to go back, generate. This is just adding the new scene to our little drop down here so we can get to it more quickly without having to scroll through the actual project view. And then inside of here, we need to drag this under the room. We will perfectly position this directly across from where we exited the old room, so it lines up. Here. All right, and now this will go to TO1. This will go to TO1. And that should be transitioning between rooms done. Next, we're going to delete a couple of these. Also the goddess statue and the revive and the lightning effect. We're going to drag this all the way over here. We're going to have none of these trees to start with. And we're going to have none of the reveal points. Nothing should start revealed in this particular space. And then we're also going to disable that. Okay. Delete this, delete this. Okay, and then this will be the next room. This is going to break because we haven't given it a valid position to start on. So we will give it spawn tile north entrance 1 as a valid debug starting spawn point. Still breaking. Unable to find the value for the addressable. Did I not? I did not rename this one. Odd. I thought we'd done that, but let's try again. Okay. That worked pretty much how I wanted it to. That didn't work though. Did it load the right scene? It did. Interesting. So when we try and transition, we're trying to go to south 01, and we're trying to go to south 02. So let's go check out Forest T01. This is south 01, and this is south 02. Okay, those should be fine. Dungeon, Forest, T2, properties. Let's do build settings in here and add it to this list as well. No, still failing. Failing on place. This means it couldn't find the spawn object. Huh. Normally this is a simple copy-paste, but I've somehow set up this data incorrectly. Oh, is it because there's two souths in here? That's probably why. It's finding the wrong south and it can't find a tile at that south location. Alright, let's try it here. Easy mistake. I've had that one a couple of times, but it is not concreted into my head yet. Oh, that south also contains the spawn revive location. Okay, so we'll just delete these ones. And this will be spawn entrance. Okay, saved. Try that again. The coloring on the floor was slightly off. Not really the biggest deal, but gonna fix it anyways. Okay. Still failing to load into this scene. Let's try again from here. Some sort of small data issue. Walk away. Load into T2, okay. Walk back. Failed to load into T01. Is there another hidden south entrance somewhere in here? Because this is trying to find south entrance. I've definitely run into this problem before where there's been like hidden spawns under here that weren't supposed to be anymore. If I just move this to the top and save, does that fix it? No. Let's try tactic that I shouldn't have to do, but let's delete the level data completely. Let's save to regenerate it. Save to regenerate it? Interesting. It didn't get regenerated. I guess because nothing is saved in the scene, so Unity didn't perform an actual save, and my regeneration of those assets are on a save event happening. Okay, what am I doing wrong? So this is South 01. That is the entity we're trying to enter into. Let's look for all entities in this scene. There's some random interacts. Let's go through them all. This is the dungeon camera. There are a couple other South 01s. That's the problem. Okay, so I had fixed this when making other maps. But this unused needs to go. And it was still in the initial map, which is what we copied. If we had copied like 03 or B, we wouldn't have run into this bug again. Because the entity system doesn't care if something's turned off. Because there are some situations where we want to grab entities that are disabled by default. Okay, that's room 2. Let's go back to room 2. Let's make sure to delete the unused there as well. Okay. And then we're going to save as this as another scene. We're just going to make a ton of these today. We're just going to get through it. We're going to get a lot of the map data set up, especially for the tutorial, which we need. So scenes, dungeons, forest, TO3. Inside of this one, we're going to be entering from the same spot again, for now. Actually, let's go back to T2. This is saved, yeah. All right, and then from here, I think what I might want to do is I might want to shift this up. I haven't really talked about it. I'm just kind of going. But what my thoughts are here is that I want to have a space where you don't really have a choice, but to walk basically in a somewhat straight line. But that straight line doesn't need to be perfectly straight. It could be still a diagonal line if we wanted. The point is more that I want to be able to say to the player, hey, you revealed this whole space. And I want to make it so that there's no way for the player to physically not reveal the whole room. So the corridor is going to need to be tight enough that you can't move to an unexpected side, or you can't go anywhere in. No matter how you move, you will reveal every single tile. That's the point of this map. But I think what's probably more interesting is instead of it being a straight line, it probably has some, like, a bit of a curve to it. So we'll start here, and then that means that we need to grab this block and copy it. And then we're going to go back here, we're going to generate the new maps. And we'll go back to tutorial 3. And then we'll paste this in here, and this needs to line up here. And this is where the north entrance will be. Cool. I just need to make the change in the previous room in order for it to make sense in this one. And then I'm just going to validate that we're still doing what we said. We are not. We ended up going this way instead, which I'm still fine with. I think that's going to be okay, because that yields to a more interesting space here, I think. Well, okay, let's talk about it. So the reason that I originally had set it up here was that meant that we would be able to go in here and then immediately exit and come straight down. So even though the room has nothing in it, it would be relatively quick for the player to walk through. Yeah, no, I should go back to my original design. I just got distracted and was moving too fast. I should keep what I had. Alright, let's go back to T2 again. Scenes, dungeon, T2. So what I meant to do was to have this block be down here somewhere. So it'd be a relatively easy walk. With less movement. That means that this is no longer a south entrance, but instead we need to go grab one from... probably O1 is easy. It's now a south entrance. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. It's not. That's named wrong in that scene. That's an east entrance. Drag that under room 01. Okay, cool. And I don't mind this spot for where we transition. We could still make this more of a curve eventually if we want. The main thing is making it so it is so narrow that there's no way to skip anything. Which I think is done in this way. I grabbed the top face piece and I moved it. I meant to move the whole object. And then shrink just this side and then bring it back in. Make this a 1x1. And place that there. Okay. Then we're going to grab this cube. And then we get to go back to 3 finally. And then inside of 3, save the scene. Oh god. Paste this in and then move it to the opposite side of the reference block. And then we're going to actually double check. This one is entering from the west and then heading south. So this can stay, but this needs to get deleted. And I need to go back to, say, Forest Room 02. Hopefully, yeah, west entrance, named correctly. Copy that, go back to tutorial 3, paste this in here, grab these 4 and shift them over to be in line with this block. Perfect. And I think now that we've tutorialized in that previous room, we're going to tutorialize completing a room. Now we're going to give you a space to use that knowledge for some sort of reward. So we're going to give you a bit more of a wider space to work with. These ones are misaligned by 1. Probably easier if I just work with cubes rather than expanding sometimes. Yeah. That is easier. Okay, and this is where we'll start introducing enemies. Oh shoot. Why is this one off? Oh, this one is too wide is the problem. No? No, this one's in between tiles. So when I copied it over, was it wrong on TO2 as well? It was. Let's go this side. Let's try that. And then we're going to copy the object again and just bring it back over just to make sure that we're 100% aligned. Not that it actually matters. Technically, you could spawn in and come in from the opposite side for all my engine cares or all my transition system. It just chooses an entity and walks you in. But I just like the idea of it set up correctly. Okay, and then we'll try that. Okay. I think this layout should be fine. When we start building in props and enemy placements and stuff, it'll start to be a little bit of a different experience, but I think this is okay for just kind of getting the core idea. Let's come over here, let's steal some enemy spawns, and then we'll come back and we'll place a few. All this needs to be underneath the room, and I like the basic cubes to be underneath this grid object. Nope, not the grid object. What are these normally under? There's definitely an object that they normally exist under. Floor. There we go. And then this enemy can exist anywhere underneath. Is there a way to make sure you encounter this enemy? If you walk down this right side, I think you'll still run into the enemy. Let's try. Worst case scenario. West entrance 02 as the default. We haven't gone into this one yet? No, we haven't. And we haven't set up the addressable for it. We also likely want to raycast the environment and then regenerate a final version of that floor asset. Good. All right, now we should be able to launch this. So the question is, if we walk over here... No, we can't avoid the enemy. There are different ways that we can engage it in combat, but we can't avoid it. It will spawn. We did not set this up correctly, so this needs to go to T2. And this needs to go to T2. And then I assume we didn't do the same thing for this one. So this needs to go to T4. And this needs to go to T4. And then T4 will go down into T5, and T5 will loop back around to the original goddess room. Okay, cool. I don't want to place the enemy right there. That feels a bit mean. But I also do want to narrow you into a choke point so I have a better understanding of where you're going to be entering. Hello, unlockable characters. To your question, is that path off to one side this big enough for props? It is not. For right now, though, I just want to try setting things up for the tutorials in order to be able to build the cutscenes. And I just mostly need the maps to exist and be traversable. And we can figure out... We can figure out the prop situation in the future. So now we can come this way, and then there's a little narrow passage, and no matter how you try and come across that narrow passage, you will end up running into the slime. So that could be done with props as well to kind of narrow you in, so you have to walk in front of it. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So then either of these two tiles will be a tutorial moment as well. Let's see if we can go backwards through all the scenes now. So if we go back this way, through here, we should go to T2 tutorial room. We do not. Failed to find the spawn location. Okay. So we're trying to transition to TO2 East 01 and 02. Let's see if that's set up incorrectly. East 01 and East 02. Okay. Let's do an entity search. Yep, same problem as last time. We just have another entity with the same name. And it was finding the wrong one. Okay, so let's go to the beginning. Starting in here. New starting spot. Spawn in. There's nothing we can really do here. There's no other tiles we can reveal except in this direction, which leads us out. From here, we walk along this path. There's no way that we can't reveal all the tiles as we move. This area here, I should double check that to be true, but that's fine. And then we'll learn about revealing a whole room. And then we'll come into the wrong spot. Okay, that's good. So the exit setup for dungeon TO2 was not done correctly. These need to be set up to be TO3 and TO3. Let's make sure that's working and that we're not running into any multiple entity issues. That breaks because it couldn't find TO3. Okay, so that's a different issue. I feel like I need a checklist for this. It's not that this isn't inherently wrong or broken or that my tools aren't good. It's just there's a series of steps to setting up a new scene. And I am missing occasionally one or two of them. So yeah, in order to load in between scenes, we need to have it in the build settings. So that was the problem there. So we can go back to TO2 now, hopefully. Yes. The floor is slightly set up wrong on that one. Okay. And then we can come in here. So I think we fixed all the transitions. Next up is I need to build T4 and T5. And then I need to adapt 01 so that it has a southern exit or entrance, depending on how you want to think about it. Okay. Let's go through the steps. So we're going to do a save as of this scene. We're going to go into infinite retries, content, scenes, dungeon, forest, and we're going to make a TO4. Save. And then from TO4, we're going to regenerate our scene data. I'm going to double tap that so it actually imports. I should fix that at some point. That's not a now problem. Why is the mono compiler taking so long? Okay. Let's do Sanctum for a little bit. So, did the game break? Like, what's going on? Debug, delete all breakpoints. Like, what are you? Okay, Unity did not like whatever I did. Let's try closing everything down. It's gonna be every step of the way today, is it? Every possible hurdle. All right, reloading Unity. Let's see what we get to. Is it gonna load up okay? Here's hoping. All right, it did. Let's check to see if it generated the forest TO4. It did, and we can load into the scene. Yeah, I don't know what that was. All right, so we've got that set up. Next step in the list is to make sure that we actually go in here and we add the new scene for TO4. We're going to go back to TO3. We're going to steal this block, and we're also going to make sure this is south. This is going to TO4 north and TO4 north. Okay. So we're going to copy all this. We're going to go back into scenes and we're going to go to TO4. And we're going to paste this in. And we're going to go find a entrance on that side, which I think O3 should have. It does. We're going to steal this north entrance, copy that. We're going to go back to 4. We're going to paste that in. We're going to make sure to move those files to be underneath the room. We are going to delete the south and west entrances. Honestly, you know what? We could just keep them and just disable them. It does cause problems with duplication, but Let's just clean up all the other entrances. Make sure there aren't any duplicate or extra hidden ones. Had to sneeze. All right. And then from here, we're going to be exiting south. Nope. This is north. This is south. This is east. Okay. We're going to be exiting east, and we don't have a backup of that. So we're going to go to a previous room. Like TO2. Save this scene. We're going to grab its east entrance. Then we're going to go back to scenes, dungeon, TO4. Paste this in. Put it under the room section. And now we have a south, a west, east. What is this? Oh, that's the enemy. Okay. So we have the 4 entrances here, and we shouldn't need to keep going between scenes and copy and pasting them from this point forward. Okay, so now we have this east one, and we don't want this one to feel identical to TO2. In fact, if we go back, I don't love that this ends up looking the exact same. We could shift this one to be like more here or something. I guess that would potentially work. It's going to be tight with prop space, but the idea would be that we could very easily go up here. Enter into a larger space again. I don't think this is going to work. And then come back down. Yeah, they're going to end up being right next to each other. So I think I want to shift this up a little bit. Which means I need to go back to the previous scene and adjust its position. That might create an interesting space. Let's give that a try. Okay, and then we'll go back. And then I like the way this feels a little bit better. So instead of going directly, we can go here. Grab this one, pull it over. You can do something where this little one kind of does something like this. Again, we may have to readjust this for prop spacing, but let's give this a shot. And then I think I might want to move this one in one tile so that we have a little bit more room to come down before making a pathway leading along the edge of the board. And then these ones can go. Okay. And I think that is TO4. Things to remember to do, we need to save this. We should probably make sure with this final version to overwrite the work in progress. And then we will regenerate the forest floor tiles, run the processor on that. We need to make sure to go in and actually update the addressable for the asset that got created. Which I'm not seeing. Dialogue sequences. This is all prefabs, dungeons. Oh, all my folders got reopened and reclosed because of the Unity crash. Well, freeze. More of a freeze than a crash. I missed some chat messages. Why not just one big block with the props acting as the walls? Do props have to be on an edge? Teleports have to be redirected to. Yes. The problem is that I want to be able to track when you fully revealed a room. And so I need only tiles to exist that are actually reachable. Otherwise, you won't be able to get to them beyond the props, and it'll prevent you from being able to fully reveal a space. It's also kind of easier to visualize with just quick blocks, opposed to trying to place all the props out. I also mentioned at the top of this when I was just kind of prefacing what we're doing today, I want to re-look at all the props with Trixie in the next few days here, and I don't want to use all the props and position them all before that pass on them. Because I think we could edit the ones we already have, plus I think there might be a few more I want. We also have some ideas on how to maybe make the space look less... how do I put it? Less like a bunch of individual tiles. I don't know if it'll work, but we have some ideas for maybe filling in some props in between tiles once both tiles have been revealed. It's not a super important system right now, but it is something I would like to take a stab at. This is off-grid. This is why I like having the blue box out this time to keep track of this. A little easier to spot sometimes where the problem is. Okay. We reset the asset, but as Unlockable Character says, we do need to make sure that we set these to go to the new rooms. That's 04, that's 04, which we are currently in 04, so this needs to be 03. Oh, T03. Tutorial 03. And then this one needs to go to TO5 and TO5? Is that right? TO5 is the one that then curves back in. Nope, not Aseprite, Balsamic. Yes, then we go in here and then we head out this way. Oh, I just realized that's going to be a problem. I'm not thinking like one room ahead, but I think this actually needs to be more center because we're going to need to exit. I think I want to exit this way on this side, somewhere middle, and we're going to run into the same pinching problem, whereas if this is too far on the right, we're going to have it be too close to the next exit I want. So this does need to be moved over at least a little bit. Doesn't have to be a ton. That might be enough. Just 2 tiles over. Okay, cool. That does mean that I need to regenerate the floor again, and then reprocess the floor. Save all that. This is going to TO5, TO5. Cool. Let's go back to the very first room, and let's just make sure we can walk through it all. TO1. Okay, we start here. Let's zoom in. We walk down. We exit into TO2. We're going to validate that on here, TO2. We walk through a very small section where there's not much room for the player to move. The floor is broken there. I'm fine with that for now. We enter into TO3. We should also be validating we can go backwards, although we've already secured, or we've already done that validation previously, but gonna just double check. We run into our very first enemy in TO3. This floor is also not regenerated correctly. Now we move into TO4. That does look like it loaded into TO4. And then this would lead into TO5. We're going to run out of time here, but the UI isn't showing it. Okay, then the last thing I want to just check on TO4 was to make sure we can go back into TO3 because we missed that. And then we'll make TO5. And that should link back up with the rooms we already had. Again, just want to get a scene set up because it's this type of... Oh, that's funny. We never actually tried spawning in here. We do need to set the debug starting location. So yeah, it's not hard to make these new spaces. It's just there's a lot of tedium in data entry. So just even if we're not going to get all the props set up correctly, just getting them penciled in will save time in the long run. Sorry, TO4, and I just want to validate we were entering into the right room. We are TO3. Okay. So now let's do that again one more time for today. Save as. Infinite retries assets. Content. Design data. Nope. Scenes. Dungeon. Forest. TO5. Save. See if we run into that same freeze again. So we're going to do build, no, scenes, infinite retries, generate, load menu. We're going to give it a second here, and then we'll hit it again. Okay, I think I must have hit it too quickly last time. And now it's showing up in the list. Perfect. Now, we're going to grab this entrance, and we're going to move it all the way to the other side to here. It is aligned with the grid. We are then going to disable the east entrance, and we are going to turn on the west entrance. And then we're going to grab the pieces of the west entrance, we're going to drag them over, and then we're going to set up these spawns. So this shall go to TO4. And this will go to TO4. And this will go to 001. Just going to change my camera perspective so it's more in line with what we're actually looking at in Balsamic. And that looks right. So TO1 and then 001 and 001 there. Sure, that seems fine. So then let's overwrite raycast. I feel like this overwrite work in progress should be like a special button rather than a tick box based off the way I'm using it. I might make that change at some point. Okay, and then I think that's good, that's good, that's good, and that's good. Then we need to set up the asset. So we need to give this a proper addressable ID that we would expect, which is the name of the level. That needs to be 05. Let's make sure we didn't break 04. We did not. Okay. This should be good. What am I missing? We need to set the default spawn point. Okay. Does this work? Does this go to TO4? It does. Perfect. We can load back into TO5. I'm going to try avoiding the enemies, which we need to fix at some point. We need to make it so enemies can't be avoided so easily. And then it goes to 001, but 001 hasn't been updated to accept that entrance. So now in here, we need to adapt this section. Scene, dungeon, TO5. We'll grab this. We'll then go back into wrong section here. Dungeons, forest, 001. We will paste this object in. And then we need to turn on that water base with the collider turned off. Let's also delete unused, which has been causing us problems. Ooh, interesting. I think I might want to bring this up a bit, just so it's more in line, more of a direct path. Sure, let's do that. So then we'll have to go back and modify the other one. So we'll go back to 05. That means this needs to tuck in a bit to give this room to go up. And I think that should work. Might not have enough room for props, but we'll give that a shot. I think worst case, we copy this whole thing, bring it down. Copy this thing, bring it down a couple of times. And then what we do is we bring this piece over, bring it in, grab this one, bring it over, shrink this a bit, and then move it to here. That could be interesting. It's an odd shape. Hidden blocks. This makes this into a bit of a gauntlet to get to the final checkpoint. I don't love that for this, but we can play test it and see if it feels good or if it feels awful. There's some neat ideas here. Anyways, let's give that a shot. If it doesn't work, we can always modify the other scene. But for now, we'll go in here, we'll go to Forest, and we'll go to O1. And then here, we need to move this cube to be underneath the floor, otherwise it won't work. In fact, I bet you we just did a bunch of that in the previous one as well. Dungeon, Forest, TO5. Well, just one. Okay. And then O1. That seems fine. I'm gonna bring this in. Sure, let's do that. And then we need an entrance. So we need to go, let's go back to the previous one. Dungeon, Forest, TO5. Grab a east entrance. Nope, south. We're looking for south. Copy that. Go back into here. Paste that into here. And then we'll probably rename this one to what it actually is, which is an east entrance. And then go over there. This needs to go to TO5, and this needs to go to TO5. And I think that should be all the rooms set up. Let's go back to this one. Make sure that we have that added. We do not. I missed that step. Let's give this a shot. Okay. I'm gonna go around the loop. Try and zoom in a bit. Yeah, definitely need to fix the alerts. And then past here. And hopefully this leads to O1. And we're able to enter. Select this goddess statue, and then we can go continue onwards. Okay, let's do it from the whole thing. Let's do scenes, core, boot. And we are just about out of time here. Drixie has returned home.
Hello, everybody.
And we are gonna do one last playthrough. So I have just finished setting it up so that we have a whole 5 new rooms for the tutorial. None of the props are set up for it. But we can move through this initial cutscene, and we're gonna see, maybe we'll run into some problems here, but if we get past here, we teleport in. We get our cutscene here, and we're in the new space. We can walk down here into tutorial room O2, walk down into tutorial room 03. From here we run into our first enemy, and we can make our way out to tutorial room 4. We can then go south to tutorial room 5, and then from here we probably won't actually have enough time to get to tutorial or to room 001. But if I go back and we actually take a look at that final section, might actually be easier if we do it from here. We now have another section added to this original room. And we can now exit this way to TO5, which would have been where we started over here and we were making our loop the way around, which I can show. This slime is in my way. I have no idea how much health I have left. Yeah, so this leads over to here. I'm not like sold on any of the designs or the layouts here, but I think it's just enough to kind of be like spaces for us to put the cutscenes in. That's the main thing, so that we can start tutorializing. So I think this is where I'm going to call it for today. We got a good chunk of it done. The main thing we didn't get to was the actual editing of the actual cutscenes themselves, because it took us almost the full 2 hours to get the maps all set up. But I don't know. That's what it is. So we'll have to move the tutorializing of the UI and the cutscenes probably out to first thing tomorrow, or I might get to it either later today or tomorrow morning. But for now, though, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, folks.